Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the podcast where a real statistics professor
And then Barney Fife to Sheriff Taylor, Jake.
gives you sports betting tips. I'm Professor Sides. You can follow me and find all of my picks on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Monday, January 17th, 2022, and this episode covers today's best college basketball bets. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model that predicts what the spread and total should be for every Division I college basketball game. That information, along with a graded A, B, or C against the spread pick for each of today's games, is available in the Google Sheet that is linked in the show's description. Picks that get an A are the ones I love, picks that get a B are the ones I like, and picks that get a C are the leans. However, please remember that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to say the model will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Please subscribe if you aren't already. For those of you on YouTube, leave a comment about the play you like the most, the one you think we might be wrong on. Jake, Friday, we continued our hot streak on the game breakdowns.
They're all over it.
Yeah, between Thursday and Friday, we did 8 game breakdowns in those two episodes, and we went 10-0 in those picks, which I feel like is just an impossible run to continue. We're going to try to keep it going today, but that was just insane. 8 picks went 31 and 21. Yeah, 8 picks went 31 and 21 last week, so good week for them. Watching the games this weekend, Jake, what did we learn?
Well, I learned first that Duke, even though they are the by far most talented team, 90% of the time they get on the court with somebody, they are struggling to put teams away. Wake Forest and NC State, they pushed the lead out to 20 and let them come back and made the cover questionable. They covered both times, but it put a game that shouldn't have been in question. Baylor's offense isn't as good as what we thought and what was believed to begin with. They've really struggled, especially against the top 60 or so defensive efficiency teams. They're not doing so hot, and so there's something wrong there that Scott Drew will have to fix. And then Alabama's offensive style is a detriment to how, like, for them play winning games, really, not just covering. They're not shooting very well from anywhere, and when you put up that many shots that quick, it allows teams that aren't as good, like Missouri, to hang around and even take off if they're just making slightly better than you.
Yeah, the Bama thing reminds me sometimes in college football, you have the same thing, right? It's like when you have the hurry up offense, when it's working, it can work really well. But if you get a couple of 3 and outs at that fast tempo, your defense is going to be gassed, and it kind of backfires. And I kind of feel like the same thing with Alabama here. Basketball, it's like,
Josh Heupel.
yeah, if things are going good, it's great. But if they're not, it really can backfire on them. Yeah. And he's talking about Baylor's offense. Yeah, their guards are just not quite as good as we thought. They've got time to figure it out. They're still a good team, but yeah, you definitely see what happened with Baylor last week, and it's clear they're not, number one team in the country like they had ascended to early on in the season. Today we've got 5 games to break down, a couple of smaller ones, a bunch of day games today being Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So hopefully you're listening to this early in the day. We're going to kick it off against my better judgment here. We're going to talk about the 11 a.m. game. Again, I hope that you're listening to this before the game's already happened. But it's the biggest game of the day, Purdue at Illinois. Illinois is a 2-point favorite. The model thinks it should be a little over 3. So I'm taking Illinois -2 as a B pick. I think the key for this one, is it going to feel like a weird game for these guys being a Monday day game, or are these guys going to be able to treat it just like a Saturday, Sunday game and get out there? If one team shows up a little sleepy, that could be the difference maker. Otherwise, this should be a great game. If they both can realize it's just treat it like a Saturday, Sunday and get out going despite the early tip time, this should be a phenomenal game. Jake, what's your pick on this one?
I'm on Purdue, believe it or not, with the points. I mean, like you said, it's the game of the day. It's a sad kind of thing that it's a 11 Central, noon Eastern game, but it's really going to be great to watch. But I think Purdue is going to do it. Illinois has been flirting with disaster here recently, like with letting teams hang around that shouldn't, and Purdue has not been playing great, but playing better. And the biggest matchup thing I think that kind of leads Purdue's way is they got 2 really good big guys to bang against Kofi all game, so they can eat fouls, they can beat him up, they can just make him move. And the fact that Williams can kind of step out and First can step out, that's kind of taking Kofi out from under the bucket and letting Purdue's guards move around and maybe get some layups that other teams haven't been able to. So I think that is really the biggest difference in why I'm taking Purdue. And the last time Illinois played a team with multiple good big guys was Arizona, and they jumped out on Arizona and let them come back and ended up losing the game, and that was at Illinois also. So it's a tough one, but I'm leaning Purdue.
All right. Yeah, it should be a fantastic game to watch there here early in the day on a Monday, kicking our week off with some good college basketball for sure. 1:30 p.m. Notre Dame is at Howard. The model makes this Notre Dame minus 9.3. So I'm taking Howard plus 11 as a B pick. My question for you, Jake, is it legal to get McCurmaker back for this game? It's a big time game. Can you bring back your star who played all of 2 games last year? He's definitely got some eligibility, right? He can come back and play today. Is that how that works?
I'm sure they're going to figure that out. Like
there you go.
They can bring him back, and Notre Dame won't notice.
They'll have Fakur Fakar in the game somehow, and no one will notice, right?
Yeah, nobody.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I'm the opposite of you again, man. I'm on Notre Dame. This Notre Dame team, I believe, is undervalued and underrated. They beat Kentucky. It was at home, but they beat a very good Kentucky team. They're a really good shooting team. They play slow and take care of the ball, which is the opposite of what Howard does. Howard runs it and turns the ball over at an extremely high rate. 16 turnovers a game, which ranks 349th out of 358. And they're ranked 342 at a per possession turnover rate. And that is the difference in the game, I think, is they just don't hold on to the ball. And I think the reason they play a fast rate is because they're constantly turning the ball over for open layups and things that it seems to speed the game up. But interesting note here, Kenny Blakeney was played at Duke and was on the last stint of Mike Bray assistant coaching at Duke. So you've got kind of like the student and the teacher kind of matchup here. But so that should be just a little interesting note, but I really think Notre Dame handles this one.
Yeah, I think it's too many points personally at 11, but I do agree with you that Notre Dame has been looking a lot better lately. They started off the season pretty abysmal and looked like just they were going to be an auto fade team for a long time, but they turned it around quickly and been playing better. The question here is just, like I said, is it too many points? It should be a tight one there, at least against the spread purposes towards the end of that game, I would imagine. 3 p.m. We've got Norfolk State at Maryland Eastern Shore. I've got an A pick for you here. Norfolk State minus 2.5. The model thinks it should be a little over 4.5. This is the first game for Maryland Eastern Shore in 4 weeks. We talk about COVID layoffs, and most teams are looking at 2 weeks, 3 weeks. A 4-week layoff is quite a long time to not have played. Maryland Eastern Shore was a team that I was backing right before they had that layoff. They are very bad, absolutely, but they were not quite as bad as people thought. And they were making us some money there early on in the season. But just with this long layoff, I think Norfolk's a pretty good team. I think they go on the road and take care of business. Jake, what's your take?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I was riding that Maryland Eastern Shore team too. They're actually the top cover team in the nation. They covered at an 87.5% clip, which is kind of ridiculous. But they haven't played in a month and haven't won since December 11th. So I think the rust gets to them, and they weren't a very deep team to begin with, running 7 and half of another guy out there. So I think the rust and all that gets to them, and Norfolk just handles business, because Norfolk is not a very good team, but they're not terrible. Of their 4 losses, only one was a team that you would say is like similarly talented. The rest of them were, go collect your paycheck and take your beating kind of games. But like I said, the difference is just a month layoff that Maryland Eastern Shore has. They just won't have it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about with the COVID layoffs, if you're thinking about first half bet, that sort of thing, I think just take the full game on this one. We've seen with some of these COVID layoffs, sometimes teams just start off really cold. And so I would not be surprised if Norfolk jumped up to a 10-point halftime lead. Sometimes it's the layoff hurts their legs for the second half too. They just don't have, it's not just about the endurance. It's just, if you just don't have quite enough in your legs, your jumpers are falling a little short there in the second half. So I think don't overthink that. I think just lay the 2.5 points and assume Norfolk can get us a win. And hopefully it's not a buzzer beater type situation.
Yeah,
we get to the window there. Also, a 3 p.m. Central game, Utah at Arizona State. The model makes this about a pick 'em, so it's a B pick for me on Utah +2. Jake, my question for you: Arizona State's 5-9. Does Bobby Hurley make it through the season?
It's a great question. I don't know. That's kind of questionable because they were kind of disappointing a little bit last year towards the end of the year. I mean, they had some momentum going, and then I think his top couple players just transferred out, didn't just leave for the draft, just left him. So I don't know what kind of grace he's built up there with some goodwill, but it could be questionable that he makes it. But I'm with you on this Utah team. It's a very close game, and Utah's team shoots nearly 80% from free throws. So that's enough to keep them close. And and Arizona State has some foul issues. They've on the road, they average about 19 fouls a game, which I mean that's putting you in the at least 1-1 in either half. And they also have a negative assist to turnover ratio, and that doesn't go well. And that's really strange from a Hurley. You would think that's the one thing they would do well is handle the ball, but they actually average a loss with the amount of points they let in versus the amount of points they score. And they're just a really bad offensive team all around. Terrible shooting, don't take care of the ball, don't find open teammates. It's rough. So I think Utah gets this one. I think they actually win outright.
Yeah, I think so too. And then we've got one last game for you here. Going back to our old friends, the SWAC here, 7:30 p.m. Florida A&M at Mississippi Valley State. I've got an A pick for you, Florida A&M -7. The model thinks it should be a shade north of 10. Jake, the key for me on this one is trying to figure out what's happening in this game. I love these SWAC games. I wish we had better play-by-play. We could get them on TV, something. With all the billion channels and streaming things, it's sad that we can't stream it, but a lot of times in these games, it's like you just get the every 4-minute updates. And so I'm just, refreshing my phone, like, how's this team doing? I think Florida A&M is the much better team in this case. We talked about Mississippi Valley State, of course, again, the worst team in college basketball. They've got their win. It is a home game, but this is not a team that I think they're going to have a lot of success with. Jake, what's your stance?
I'm with you. Florida A&M is a better team, if better is the word you want to use. They're not as bad. But they do have somebody that's fun to watch. MJ Randolph, he's averaging 26 and 3. I mean, he's a very fun guy to watch in a not so great basketball league. They've won their last 2, but as a team, Florida A&M is a bad shooting team, but the turnover issues and the almost 90 points a game Mississippi State's allowing him kind of makes up for that. There's going to be a lot of bad offense in this game, and I don't recommend watching it, but like we said before, you don't have to watch it to make the money.
Exactly. It's always the thing you have to remember is that we probably won't be able to watch this one, but it's not a big deal. We should be able to make money either way. They all pay the same. I've got 4 buzzer beaters for you. I've got another afternoon game, Tennessee State +1.5 versus Tennessee Tech. That's a wrong team favored game. For me, that's an A pick. I've got 3 more A picks in the evening. Portland +11 at Loyola Marymount. I'm 8-5 backing Portland. I think 11 is too many points. I think Loyola Marymount is a good team. They're at home, but this is one where, some fouls late, they probably win by 8 or 9, something like that. So Portland +11 gets us to the window. And then 2 more games where I think the favorite is not favored by enough. 6 p.m. Charleston -8.5 versus UNC Wilmington. And then a 7 p.m. Central tip, UMKC -8 against Denver. Jake, what are your buzzer beaters?
I like IU. I think Trace Jackson Davis dominates the game. They cover the number, maybe even blow them out with the way they're playing. If they don't turn the ball over like they did against Iowa. And I like Belmont responding back from that Murray State beatdown. That was whew. But I think they come back and come out with a vengeance here. I still can't believe you're picking against my alma mater in Tennessee Tech. That's that hurts. That hurts.
Hey, you dogged on Baylor at the start of the show, and then I got to do this to close this out. So this is just a brutal show for us here. That's all we've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Reminder: check out that Google Sheet for all picks and totals on today's games. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button. We'll get you a new episode every weekday of the college basketball season. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.